Jordan, can you hear us?
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Great. Thank you so much for having me. Sonia, congratulations. My wife is a professional flute player, so it's very cool to see your success. I'm excited about that, so congrats. First of all, good afternoon. My name is Jordan Henry. I'm a parent here in Glendale. I came today to comment on Glendale Unified's adoption of the Southern Poverty Law Center's social justice standards. In the following statement, I hope to make it clear that the approved anti-bias and anti-racist educational framework violate the board's own policies on bias and non-discrimination. First, I would like to thank the board for their dedication in providing quality education for all students. Second, I invite any concerned parents who are listening to email me directly regarding my comments that I'm going to make. These are complex issues, and 5 minutes is truly insufficient. You can email me directly at jddhenry@gmail.com. That's jddhenry@gmail.com. In the board's approved report from February 2nd, the social justice standards shall be applied to K through 12 English, English language development, history, social science, math, and science. This is essentially all core subjects. Glendale Unified is using a book titled Anti-Bias Education for Young Children and Ourselves. It reads, "People of color," this is a quote, "people of color often have the feeling that anti-bias education is work that whites need to do because the sources of racism come from white history and culture. White children definitely need anti-bias education, so too do children of color, although the specific work differs from that with white children. It is clear that anti-bias education will inherently cause children of one demographic to be treated differently than others. Anti-racist education has a similar discriminatory tone. This spring, I joined the culturally relevant and responsive education working group, where I was told a primary resource on anti-racist education is Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist, which states, "The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination." Let's compare this with the board policy 0410 on non-discrimination, which states, "District programs, activities, and practices shall be free from unlawful discrimination, including discrimination against an individual or group based on a race, color, ancestry, etc." So I ask the board today, how can you be anti-racist, which requires racial discrimination, while simultaneously upholding this policy? Another relevant board policy is number 6144 on instruction of controversial issues, such as race or politics. The policy states, "When providing instruction related to a controversial issue, instruction shall be presented in a balanced manner, addressing all sides of the issue without bias or prejudice and without promoting any particular point of view. This instruction shall not reflect adversely upon persons because of their race, ethnicity, etc." In their own teacher training materials, the SPLC, that's the Southern Poverty Law Center, they quote Martin Luther King Jr. in framing the Black Lives Matter riots from 2020 as "the riot is the language of the unheard." That is quoting Martin Luther King Jr. But the rest of that quote is omitted, where MLK states, "And let me say this, as I've always said, and I will always continue to say, that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating." This is political bias on the part of the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is ironic given that their entire framework is branded as anti-biased. Finally, I will comment on critical pedagogy, a radical academic field in education rooted in Marxian philosophy, as in Karl Marx. The father of critical pedagogy is Brazilian Paulo Freire, who published a book in 1970 called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, cited multiple times throughout the social justice standards. Pedagogy of the Oppressed is an explicitly revolutionary text aimed at overthrowing liberal representative democracy itself. Freire repeatedly quotes communist Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and Mao Zedong. These revolutionaries were collectively responsible for nearly 100 million deaths globally as a direct result of their totalitarian regimes. The Southern Poverty Law Center repeatedly cites another radical feminist critical pedagogist named Bell Hooks. She wrote a book called Teaching to Transgress, in which she states, "Because the colonizing forces are so powerful in this white supremacist capitalist patriarchy," and I mean the United States here, that's me talking, not her, she's talking about the US, "it seems that Black people people are always having to renew a commitment to decolonizing political processes. And so Paulo Freire's work in its global understanding of liberation struggles, that's communism, always emphasizes that this is the important initial stage of transformation. Quoting Ibram Kendi again, he states that capitalism is essentially racist. Racism is essentially capitalist. They were birthed together from the same unnatural causes. These statements clearly represent biased radical politics in an educational setting.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. That's
may I please finish?
5 seconds, please. You muted. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Our